The first step of backward design lesson planning is determining and writing your lesson objective. If you don't know where you're going in the lesson, then you'll never know when you get there, and neither will your students. Backwards design is effective because it forces you to consider your objectives first, which always constantly reminds you on why you're doing the lesson. So your first step is to ask yourself, what should my students know, understand, and be able to do, and what is worthy of understanding? A very daunting task. Luckily for us, or unlucky for us, Hawaii's Department of Education has already established every K-12 lesson objective or standard for teachers, and it can be found at this link on their website. Currently, it's known as Common Core, and these objectives and standards are developed in accordance with the mandates from the state and federal government. And so part of your job as a future teacher is to become very familiar with those standards pertaining to your grade level or subject area. However, the reality of teaching is that you will not be able to cover all those standards in 1 year. So you need to apply something called the 40-40-40 rule in deciding which standards you think are more important than others. And so the 40-40-40 rule asks you, whenever you are thinking about the standards that you think are important, is which ones do you want them to remember for a short time or 40 days? Which ones are not so important? Which ones are a little more important where some student will learn it and then forget about it 40 months from now? And then which ones do you want the students to remember for life, which is a 40-year rule? Which means that if I came back to your classroom in 40 years, it is so important to teach that standard you would still be teaching it. We call this 40-year idea the big idea, or the enduring understanding. And we would love our classrooms to be made up of these because it would serve as the foundation for the students' future schooling and future lessons. So we can use an example. What if we wanted to teach math to second graders? And so by examining the latest standards, you might see that counting, estimating lengths, and telling times are objectives that you think the students should be able to know and do. However, what if you only had time to teach one of those? The 40-40-40 rule helps us focus on which one. So you start with saying what 40-day ideas might they do, and so you write down the 3 objectives that you have. Which one of those is more important than the other ones? So we can narrow it down to 2 40-month ideas by saying the student should be able to count and tell and write time rather than estimating lengths. And then out of those 2, which is the most important one? And so based on my experience and my thoughts, remember, you're the teacher, you get to decide what is most important. I think counting is the fundamental enduring understanding, because I think you can't do the other 2 without being able to count. So you want to approach your lesson planning the same way. And once you have accomplished figuring out which are the 40-year ideas, then you simply need to be able to write a learning outcome for it using action verbs and Bloom's taxonomy, which the next video will help you with.